So a few questions. So we'll start with Nicole. Why don't you give us a brief introduction of yourself?
Okay, I am Nicole Dogan. I'm a senior GIS analyst at the town of Flower Mound. I have been at Flower Mound for 19 years. Originally from Australia. I got my undergrad in Australia and then I got my master's at UTD. And it's an enterprise GIS. I work with everybody, but predominantly with police is my main concern.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Patrick, go ahead. Good morning.
Yeah, hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Patrick Alexander. I'm the GIS manager for the Houston Police Department. I've been with Houston Police Department for going on 14 years now, and I've been in the role that I'm currently doing for probably going on about 6 years now. I have my undergrad in criminal justice and a master's degree in homeland security, and I learned GIS in the military about 15 years ago. So I'm excited to be here, and that's me.
Wonderful, wonderful. DJ, go ahead and give us an introduction of yourself.
Sure. Hi, my name is Sgt DJ Baby. I'm with Dallas Police Department for a little over 27 years. I'm one of the 2 GIS sergeants from our GIS and crime analysis team. I actually manage the enterprise GIS portion of GIS, and my coworker actually handles the analysis piece of it.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So you can see we have a wide variety of people throughout the state for this great panel. I appreciate each one of you volunteering to help give the students some idea of what law enforcement and how GIS is used in law enforcement. So we'll go back to Nicole. What sort of situations have you used GIS in your law enforcement position?
Lately, a lot of what we've been doing has not been crime-based, but it's been establishing apps and just making life easier in the police department when they're holding events like they do a Santa Cops where they collect or requests from people where kids could use some presents from Santa, and the citizens put in money and the police distribute that information. So filing an online, using a geoform to get that information collected, the same for National Night Out, and then making a dashboard for the police department so they can see where they have parties that they have to go to, and that sort of thing. Establishing emergency search area maps when we've had people missing. We've got half of a lake is within the town, and we've had a couple of times where we've had a cyclist go off a Dorber trail, an off-road trail, and it took them days to find the person. That time I was out of the country, and the other people in my department were able to pull up maps and provide a search grid. And we've also had issues with bodies going missing in the lake, and they knew they were looking for a body, but it was very hush-hush at the time because the people's families are looking for them and hoping for the best and trying to help with the search and rescue, and then pull in other municipalities for assistance.
Wonderful. Well, great stuff. Patrick, how about you? What type of stuff have you used for the Houston Police Department? What type of products or different things has the police requested from you?
Yeah, so being in a department of around 6,000 employees, we pretty much use GIS for our command staff, creating tons of dashboards on metrics that they need to know about, whether it's personnel or crime for their ComStat and things like that, to specialized units like our special events unit, creating site maps and operation maps for our events like the World Series that we just had, and of course for our patrol, and creating apps that they could use like in an apartment editor app that lets them know what the gate codes are going into, if they need to go into apartments and things like that if they get called there. So pretty much from top to bottom, and bottom up, we've created applications that involve GIS. So
that would be an important app to know the gate code of those apartment complexes, that's for sure. Sgt Baby, you said that you do crime analysis. How does GIS affect that in your work?
Oh, well, currently, from a key performance indicator, it says to measuring, measuring and allocating resources for crime and the demand of officers in certain areas, as we as you start with CAD data, crime data, in addition to the demands that come from our own personnel. So we support 7 different divisions, and then we also support internally all the departments that are within headquarters. So anything from using PDF maps in addition to the dashboards and apps to manage our day-to-day crime counts, the aggregation of time and space and the places that things are happening. Most of this has probably been somewhat automated to a certain degree, although we still have a lot of ad hoc things that we do. That may be something that's not done routinely. We still use GIS for that. But most of the time, what we try to do is make sure that we can build something that is continually used. And if it is, then we try to bring it into a GIS application so that others can use the same application.
Outstanding. Nicole, do you see GIS growing in the future as it pertains to law enforcement?
Absolutely. I think the strengths of GIS is that you provide extra data, extra information to the department, the people on the ground, where you may not have that information immediately if you're just there without the background of the GIS. But the GIS can pull in data from other sources, combine the sources, create special analysis, and bring more value to that data and provide the person on the ground more information to do their job.
Wonderful, wonderful. Patrick, same question to you. Do you see, expanding also in the Houston Police Department there?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe our chief is trying to take us into a direction of a data-driven department with intelligence-led policing coupled with community-oriented policing. So with that kind of model, the information that we have is all spatially correlated data for the most part. So we can use that data in GIS and help drive decision-making at the top and provide whether it's analysis for our crime analysts or for our patrol to kind of direct them in some type of directed patrol type of way. So yeah, absolutely. It's only going to get more, you're only going to get more busy, not less.
Right. DJ, you said you've been doing GIS for how long now?
Well, about 10, 15, with the department, I think I came over into this team about 11 years ago. So at that time,
have you seen a growth?
Oh, absolutely. Even to the point to our current crime plan, right? And even our past crime plan. So before we even initiated this crime plan, all of the data and analytics and historical data that we use to create the crime plan came from from data sources that were in a GIS.
Understood. Great. Nicole, why do you like working in GIS? If you do, if you don't, I understand. But if you, what gets you about GIS? Why did this look interesting, and what keeps you going in GIS every day, I guess?
I really like that you can get more information out of the data. You can make that story tell you more just by pulling in more information and getting different perspectives. And I think that's a valid thing with, if you're a GIS person, working with police officers, having a good enough relationship set up that your software, that they can come to you and say, I was thinking about this, which might be something I'm never going to think of. I'm not a police officer. And that you can work together to try and get the data to help in the situation in ways that you haven't thought of. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I like about it. That's for sure. Patrick, in the Houston department, you said you started in the military. How did you transition? How was that transition from going from military into now managing the GIS department there?
Yeah, pretty seamless actually. I find, and you could probably ask my colleagues all around here, that I always reference, like, in the Army we do this, or we call it this, and things like that. So I've used direct experience from being an intelligence officer for the past 15 or so years with GIS and or just law enforcement in general. So and there is maybe not 100% correlation, but it's pretty similar to each other. And I don't want to say I use it every day or some aspect of it, but I do reference my past military experience a lot. So
yeah, DJ, I mean, you were in that field now for 11 years. Did you do GIS prior to your police before becoming an officer, or was it something you had done in the service, or is it through schooling that you learned?
Yep. Well, I did it through schooling. Obviously, I got my bachelor's degree in GIS back in started in 2014 and finished in 2016. But the department actually drafted me, right? So we were doing some analytics at a station level, and then once a position came open at headquarters, I was actually interviewed for it. I was the only interviewee, and then from there, I promoted within the same position.
Oh, DJ, you're on.
DJ, you're on mute. There you go.
There. Okay. Did I mute myself? I'm not sure. Okay. I don't know how. Did I answer the question or?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So Nicole, as somebody, we're talking to mainly high school kids here today. If somebody was interested in getting into GIS, how would you encourage them? What would you tell them to look at or study?
I would say definitely if you're going into GIS, that's great. If you're going into something else, it's good to have some understanding of GIS too, because it can help you in any field, in any direction you want to go. And keep an open mind, listen to other people. Yes, take classes and learn the software, but software changes several times during your career. And knowing that the basis of the analysis, what can be done, and then how you can change that. And you have to be fluid. You just know it's going to change, and go in with an idea on where you're wanting to go, but listen to other people and take direction from them.
Wonderful. Patrick, same sort of question. Do you think that the balance between the military and your college knowledge was beneficial? I mean, do you think they should have both, or do you think they're one or the other, or what are your views? What do you think?
Yeah, so I think when DJ kind of hit it on when he was talking about when he introduced himself, how he's actually a classified member of his department. Well, like Nicole, I'm a civilian staff for my department. And so for the students, I would just want them to know that you don't have to be a classified, if you want to go into law enforcement, you don't have to be a classified member of your department. There's plenty of departments out there where there's civilian staff and there's GIS, right? So you just kind of have to find the department that is right for you. Now, if you do want to go into law enforcement and be a sworn officer, that's great as well. I would recommend, though, that maybe you may not need a criminal justice background, right? I would recommend doing a undergrad that, like, what you want. Like, for example, the Houston Police Department, we do not care what your degree is in. And if you do have a bachelor's or a master's or a doctorate, like that area of study doesn't matter. You're still going to get some type of like pay bonus for having it. So I would get it in something that you really want to get it in, like GIS. If I would have to do it over, I would probably do a GIS major or geography major and a minor in criminal justice to have that background. I also minored in military science, and computer science. Do you need computer science to do well in GIS? Not necessarily, but you should have a technical grasp of what the technology can do. And if you want to go in a specific area in GIS, like development or programming, then yes, you're probably going to want to take some type of like programming classes like that. But it's a huge range of study. It's exciting. So pick what's interesting to you, and GIS will be able to be there more than likely and fill that niche for you.
Great. DJ, same sort of question to you. What field would you suggest that students might look into?
Hey, Patrick mentioned it as well when he talked about the certain degrees that you might want to gear towards, and data, programming, analytics, all of that's become part of GIS. And so a big part of it is, not only do you want to be an end user, but at some point, a lot of end users want to become developers and maintain or manage an enterprise. So I think a combination of all of that will make a very good, successful GIS career for anyone. So
Wonderful.
I didn't start out in writing, Python or SQL. That all came later. So.
Yeah, and I would
Yes.
also say though that you can have you can be very narrow in your scope of what you want to do for GIS, or you can be broad, right? And maybe you want to know a little of everything, right? So you don't have to be, if you are not a coder and you can say, I don't want to say you can never learn code, but if it's just something that is like a language that, like learning a foreign language, right? And if you're just not really good at that, that's okay. You can have a very successful and rewarding career in GIS without touching code at all. Now, code will enhance what you would like to do, but there's wonderful like cartographers out there that make gorgeous maps. And if that's something that you like doing, by all means, go do that. But I will say in law enforcement, you, especially like DJ saying for an enterprise, and we all like manage enterprise GIS this year, that breadth of experience across the board for GIS, you really will hit kind of like all of that, all the different things that GIS will touches. So
yeah, and Patrick mentioned, I'm sorry, go ahead. Oh, Patrick mentioned earlier. Okay, Patrick mentioned earlier, you don't have to be a sworn officer to do this. So my team has about 19 people, and yeah, there are 2 sworn supervisors, but the rest of the staff are civilians.
Great. So just, I have one last question for everybody, but I wanted to open it up for a moment to see if any of the students had any questions for us. I'm not exactly sure how we're going to handle this. This is live and new. So if there's any questions from the students, please unmute yourself and ask away. And if not, I'll continue on to the final question. Okay, I'm not seeing any. Joseph, you're the background there. You don't see any, correct?
No, I don't see any, but they can also put something in the chat.
Yes, you can also put, so yeah, that's true.
And we can answer that later if they put something in there.
Okay, so my last question of the day is pretty simple. And for all 3 of you, so Nicole again.
I have a question.
Certainly.
Oh my God, it's gonna echo. Okay, I want to know how you use. I'm sorry, it's echoing.
Is that Oz back there?
Oh.
Is that the wizard? Samantha, go ahead. I think we heard you.
Yeah, what was the question? How did you do? Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of questions. That's sort of my last question. What did you do yesterday at work? What have you created lately? What projects have you worked on using GIS?
I'll go first because I was just, much as like I am the manager over the unit for GIS, I love my job and I get into the work all the time. So in fact, yesterday for our downtown Houston area, it's a bunch of one-way streets. So we also have a division that's called Downtown Division, and we have tunnels underneath the ground. For business use during the weekday. And so I was working on a tunnel map for our downtown patrol division, and as well I was creating a feature service for our downtown patrol for our special operations for special events for our Minute Maid Park, which is in a Toyota Center, which is where the Astros play and then where the Rockets play. So while we have one-way streets in our roads shapefile or our roads feature class, we actually don't have a feature class that has the directions of the roads as in arrows. So I went and created that yesterday for everyone. So that's just an example of and I totally nerded out. It's nice cardo and everything. So I loved it. So that's what I did.
Nicole, you were talking earlier about finding missing persons. There's a question in the chat. How do police officers use GIS to locate missing persons?
So in my experience, the way they've used GIS is to set up a grid and then sequentially search grids so that they could not waste manpower going back and covering the same areas and be able to move in a direction based on the time the person was missing, whether that was a child or an elderly resident, where they could look and see how fast they would expect they could walk to get away from a distance and then try and cover the area to try and catch them as quickly as possible or locate them.
Wonderful. DJ, as somebody who works in the forensics and investigations, somebody asked, do you cover forensics and crime scene investigations as well using GIS?
Yes, we do. So a lot of times, we will actually work in concert with our shooting teams. And so when we have these multiple shootings that are throughout the city of Dallas, several times a week, then we actually will take what information they provide us on bullet casings and try to match those through their system, and we will actually map that for them. So if there was a weapon or a certain type of weapon that was used in one offense, and then several days later or even weeks or months later it was used in another offense, we'll be able to map that sequence of events for them.
Great. Now, one last question for everybody, and I should have asked this earlier, but in your departments, do you have internships? Do you have college interns that come in, or other interns that come in and help you? And how does that assist you in your day-to-day work? Anybody can answer that.
I've used interns several times for our team. Most of them come from, I think it might be UTD and one other school that have a large GIS program. And with that being said, we actually hired one of our last GIS specialists from that same community, from that same school.
Great. Nicole, I know you work in a smaller police department than the other two gentlemen here,
Right.
One from Houston, one from Dallas. Do you use interns?
We don't.
have
Our
you?
GIS department's only 3 people. So we have not in a very long time used any interns, but I know I've used them in other places before, and that, yeah, it was very helpful getting people to come in, learning some new edge software from them sometimes, but also learning their work ethic and judging how people are going to work with you and what an asset it can be.
Wonderful. Wonderful. I want to thank each and every one of you for your time today. And I hope that the students had some value added discussions out of this. And I want to thank each and every one of you and remind the students and the teachers that on the website, there is a feedback that we would like you to look at and do. I'm trying to share my screen. 1 second here. I'm sorry, I'm got 9 different things going on. And so we appreciate you and thank you, each and every one of you. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.